There is a strange type of person who reacts differently when they see an old car. Most people walk past it without a second thought. But this person slows down. Sometimes they even stop. Not because the car is expensive. Not because it's rare. But because something about it feels alive. They notice details other people miss. The curve of the body. The sound of the engine. The way sunlight reflects off the metal in a way modern cars somehow don't. To most people, it's just an outdated machine. But to them, it feels like a story waiting to be read. And that reaction tells us something interesting about the way their mind works. Because people who feel drawn to old cars are usually responding to something much deeper than the vehicle itself. At first glance, loving old cars looks like a simple preference. Maybe it's nostalgia. Maybe it's the aesthetic. Maybe it's the sound of a classic engine. But when psychologists look closer, they begin to notice something surprising. The people who love old cars often share certain personality traits. They tend to be patient. They enjoy understanding how things work. And they are often skeptical of systems that feel too perfect or too automated. Which means their attraction to older machines might not really be about cars at all. It might be about the kind of world they feel comfortable living in. Modern cars are built for convenience. Sensors detect problems automatically. Computers manage the engine. Software adjusts performance. For most people, this is progress. But for a certain type of mind, something important gets lost in that process. Distance. Because when a machine becomes too automated, the human being no longer feels connected to it. Older cars are different. They invite interaction. You can hear the engine think. You can feel the vibration through the steering wheel. You can open the hood and actually understand what every component is doing. Psychologists have a name for why this feels satisfying. It's called embodied cognition. The idea is simple. Human beings understand the world more deeply when they can physically interact with it. When your hands turn a wrench. When your ears listen to the rhythm of an engine. When your eyes follow the path of a moving belt or gear. Your brain isn't just observing the system. It's participating in it. And participation activates one of the brain's most powerful reward systems. The system linked to dopamine. The same chemical associated with discovery, curiosity, and mastery. This is why fixing something yourself can feel strangely satisfying. Not because the task was easy. But because your brain experiences a small reward each time a mystery becomes understandable. Over time, this interaction with machines begins to shape something even deeper. Identity. People who spend years working on older cars often develop a quiet confidence. They know that if something breaks, it can usually be understood. It may take patience. It may require trial and error. But the solution exists somewhere inside the system. Psychologists call this belief an internal locus of control. It's the feeling that outcomes in life are influenced by your own effort and understanding. And once someone develops that mindset, it rarely stays limited to the garage. It spreads. They begin approaching life the same way. Problems are not things to fear. They are puzzles waiting to be solved. And the patience learned from working on machines slowly becomes a philosophy for living. But for many people, the love of old cars didn't begin with a purchase. It began with a memory. Maybe it was watching a parent fix something in a driveway. Maybe it was a summer afternoon in a garage. The smell of oil and metal in the air. The sound of tools clinking against steel. These moments create powerful emotional associations. Psychologists refer to this process as autobiographical memory. It's the way personal experiences attach meaning to specific objects, places, and environments. Years later, when someone sees an old car parked on the street, they aren't just seeing the vehicle. Their brain reconnects with that earlier version of themselves. The memory returns quietly. Sometimes through a smell. Sometimes through a sound. Sometimes through a shape or texture that feels strangely familiar. And suddenly, the car isn't just an object anymore. It becomes a doorway to the past. There is another lesson hidden inside the way older machines work. They teach patience. Mechanical systems operate on a certain rhythm. Bolts must be tightened correctly. Parts must align precisely. Shortcuts almost always lead to bigger problems later. People who spend time with machines begin to internalize this rhythm. They learn that progress often happens slowly. That understanding takes time. And that careful attention usually matters more than speed. In a culture that celebrates instant results and constant upgrades, that mindset can feel almost rebellious. Because modern life often encourages replacement. Something stops working. You throw it away. Buy a new one. Move on. But older machines tell a different story. They suggest that problems are not always the end. Sometimes they are the beginning of understanding. So the next time you see someone standing quietly beside an old car, looking at it with a strange kind of admiration, remember that they might not just be appreciating a machine. They might be responding to something deeper. A connection to a time when objects felt more understandable. A belief that complicated systems can still be figured out. Or maybe just the quiet satisfaction of knowing that with enough patience and attention, even a stubborn engine will eventually reveal what it needs. And in a world that often feels unpredictable and difficult to control, that small certainty can be surprisingly powerful. Because sometimes the things we choose to preserve say more about how we want to live than the things we choose to replace.